All right, we are currently recording. Today is July 14th, 2022. My name is Rose Hurwitz, and I am interviewing Joram Wolanow. Today we will be starting by talking about the tornado that hit the Dallas area in October of 2019. So, Joram, what street were you living on during?
Current Drive.
Current Drive. And what type of residence were you in?
It's a private home.
Beautiful. Can you describe the evening of October 20th, 2019, the night that the tornado hit?
My wife and I were in Uzbekistan when it hit. And we had a house sitter watching our house and the dog that we have. Big dog. We became aware that there was a tornado that passed in Dallas, but we did not expect it to be our street or our neighborhood. So of course the first thing that came to our mind is, oh my God, we are on the other side of the world. What happened? Okay. We didn't know if the house was still there because it literally passed, within a couple of blocks of us, encompassing a whole section. In fact, the JCC was hit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we contacted our grandson, who lives right across the street from the JCC in the condominium, and asked him to go check and see whether there is a house still standing. Can you imagine how we felt being 8,000 miles away?
No, not at all.
On vacation, no less.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The stress level just skyrocketed.
Absolutely.
Okay? Well, he tried to, and he's only like 2 blocks away. He tried to get there, but he couldn't because the streets were all full of trees that fell down. He just couldn't get there.
Wow.
And we could not, for some mysterious reason, I don't know what happened, the little dog sitter and the house sitter did not answer the phone, which in fact amplified our concerns.
Right.
But after a few, I told him, his name is Zachary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's right here, living right across, on Lavendale, right here. But anyway, okay, it's only 2 blocks away. Why don't you walk rather than drive? Well, he reported the house is still there, but there was some damage. But it was not really that visible. Our backyard table, umbrellas, lawn chairs were destroyed. And as we found out later, is that the ceramic shingles from our neighbor house somehow dislodged, flew right through the wall of our home and ended up in our attic. A piece about that big.
Oh my goodness.
Those red clay roof shingles. So, but we had wonderful neighbors who discovered the hole in the wall and they patched it up.
That's so kind.
So that we don't have any undesirable squirrels visiting. No, the area is full of squirrels,
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, the damage was not that great. We needed a new roof and new furniture for the outdoors. And the unfortunate part is so many people in our block, down at the very end of our block. In fact, the people who live there, they're a member of the J, their house was practically demolished. Literally right at the end of the block.
Wow.
Okay, the Hurwitzes.
Oh.
You know Heidi?
Yes, I do know Heidi.
Yeah, their house is...
She's a rabbi at SMU.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her house was very heavily damaged.
Mm-hmm.
It's still not rebuilt, by the way.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as it also turned out, is that the condominium and another building in the condominium complex that we have a unit that my grandson lives in, 3 buildings were entirely demolished right down to the ground. With the piles of bricks And the building next to it, the entire roof collapsed down into it. When we returned and we saw what happened, I mean, we were so thankful that no one got actually hurt.
Right.
You know, so these were very stressful times, very stressful times.
Did you stay the entirety of your originally planned vacation, or did you?
Yeah, once we knew that the house was still up and standing, we remained. It was not very practical to return from, you know, from Uzbekistan. You know, we were like halfway through a 3-week.
Oh wow.
Tour.
Yeah.
So we were comfortable that no one was hurt, and we can continue and return when the time has come.
Good. How long did it take to get in contact with your sitter?
To get in touch with her? I think the next day we managed to get a hold of her, and we found out she's okay.
Good. Was there any damage to her home?
She doesn't live here. She lives
Okay.
in Garland, so.
Good.
You know.
So out of danger.
Yeah, she's been sitting in our home whenever we go away, I think for the last 20 years.
Oh wow. So had you been in that home more than 20 years when the tornado hit?
We've been in this home 23 years.
Oh wow.
And still are.
Good. Good. That's the happy ending of the story, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's a wonderful place.
Good.
You know.
So what resources were you able to leverage in your recovery? Was like there an insurance agency or a government agency, charity, friends or family that were able to help?
Good question. We contacted the insurance company when we returned. Okay. We hired a company, a reconstruction company that deals with disasters, that specializes in repairing homes. They're called, I believe they're called exterior experts or something like that. You know, we all climbed up on the roof, measured the damaged area, contacted the insurance company, they sent adjusters. But it took quite a while for the insurance company to agree to pay for they originally thought, okay, you only have 30% of your roof kind of damage, we're gonna, and they were gonna actually do that, just replace the shingles of the damaged area, but as it turned out,
Interesting.
they were not able to get matching shingles.
Of course.
So they replaced the entire roof. Or they paid to replace the entire roof, to pay for the damaged outdoor furnitures that were destroyed, to repair the side of the house that was punctured by the flying debris. We also had some tree damage, some branches and ones that fell down. Those were removed. But thank God that none of the trees that we have actually fell in the direction of the house, which, by the way, happened to quite a few people. On this very block, incidentally,
Wow.
on North Haven, the house came right
Okay.
down and split the house in half.
Gosh, that's so scary. Do you know if any people were home in that house?
No, we do not know who lives there, but just
Okay.
driving by, you see
Yeah.
this tree leaning against the house, you know, crushing part of the roof.
Mm-hmm. Was there still a lot of damage that you could visibly see by the time you got home from your vacation?
It was still devastation.
Yeah.
Devastation. The city clearly gathered as much as they could from the fallen trees and placed them aside so the traffic can go, you know, like wiggle through them. But it took a while to clean up. It really took a long time to clean up.
Do you know if it was weeks, days, months?
It was weeks.
Okay.
It was weeks.
Gosh.
Yeah. And the 3 buildings of the condominium complex that are right here, that were totally destroyed, and this is what, 2.5 years now? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
They are just being rebuilt.
Wow.
Because it took dealing with the insurance companies over 2 years to agree on the price of replacement. And because I happen to be on the board of that HOA, that I own a unit, we ended up being about $800,000 short of what it's going to take to rebuild those buildings.
My goodness.
We're trying to figure out where the money's going to come from.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big problem.
For sure.
That is an actual disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to offer a suggestion if anybody is going to watch this. When we purchased the condominium in September, which is 1 month before the tornado. Hurricane is way out there.
Yeah.
Tornado, we of course purchased insurance for that. Okay. Liability, whatever it was. There is a line item in the insurance which I believe is mandatory. It's called loss assessment. Are you familiar with that term? If you own a condominium and there is a loss due to some natural event, like hail destroying something, or as it turned out, a tornado, okay, any money that the individual owners of the unit have to contribute towards the recovery, the insurance company will cover up to a certain amount, and that amount was $1,000. Well, guess what we were hit with? $6,000. So we had actually had to eat $5,000 out of our own pocket. For an additional $4 a year, we could have raised it to $10,000, but no one knows that.
Right.
So if you ever purchase a condominium or a unit in a condominium complex, make sure that you're very well covered for something called loss assessment.
That is great advice.
It's dirt cheap.
Do you know how many residents there are in the condos?
In the units that were destroyed, 30 families.
Okay.
30.
Wow.
And I know several of them.
Have a lot stayed in Dallas, or have they relocated?
Oh, yeah. They basically took residence in different areas. From my understanding, 2.5 years later, there are 2 owners who passed away, okay, and they are in probate of who's going to own them and so on and so forth. But the sad part for those, by the way, talking about impact on people when you have a disaster, there is something called HOA dues. To take care of the common areas, the sprinkler system, okay. And every unit, and by the way, there are a total of 198 units in this complex. 30 of them were destroyed, okay. Every month, we have to pay a certain amount of money. In our case, it's like $500, okay, as the dues that take care of the the grass and maintenance and so on and so forth. Okay, the 30 owners of those units that had to find an alternative place to live in still had to pay this monthly dues, even though their units were destroyed.
Oh my goodness.
Which turns out to be quite a few $1,000s. In addition to paying rent where they live.
New place, yeah.
Temporary. And it's going to be another year before those buildings are complete.
Wow.
So you're talking 3.5 years worth of what's 3.5 years, that's 40 months. Take 40 times $500 or $600. You're talking some $20,000 to $25,000 out of their pockets of unexpected expenses. It's awful.
That's heartbreaking, and I'm sure very challenging for many families.
Many people who live on the Social Security just simply do not have the financial means to support that kind of expense. I feel very badly for them. I know some of them.
Yeah.
In fact, a very active lady that is here in the JCC, in the seniors department, you know Sandy?
I am not familiar.
Okay.
Sandy, I haven't met her.
Her unit was destroyed.
Oh,
She's a
my.
very senior citizen, and it hit her hard. I will not disclose the last name.
Mm-hmm.
No personal stuff.
Yeah, no problem. Oh my gosh, that's so heartbreaking.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And and you don't know when the next one is going to hit.
Right. Were you aware of any of the weather changes that would have indicated that there would be a tornado, or had you been paying attention at all being on vacation?
Not at all. We had scant connections, internet connections.
Mm-hmm.
We would come, stay in a hotel, you know, free Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff at snail's pace.
Mm-hmm.
So there was not an easy way to make a connection.
Okay.
Not to mention the fact that the time zones were like 10 hours difference.
Right. Probably getting some news, or could have gotten news while you were sleeping, and yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, the way we found out is getting to the hotel room, turn the TV on, watching CNN, and saying, "Oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
North Dallas," you know.
Mm-hmm. Was that the first tornado you had ever experienced?
That's how we found out that something hit in the area, but we didn't know it actually passed through our street and 2 or 3 other streets nearby.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the tornado sort of kind of went on an angle which was sort of southwest, from southwest to northeast, in sort of kind of that kind of a path. And if you were to drive on near Harry Hines Boulevard and Webb Chapel, I mean, the destruction there was unbelievable. Shopping malls were literally collapsed, completely destroyed. Someone that I knew that owned a dry cleaning store on Webb Chapel and Marsh Lane, the building was not there. The building was gone.
Wow.
It was just rubble.
Mm-hmm.
And he lost his livelihood, he lost his business. What is he going to do?
Mm-hmm.
It's like starting life all over again.
Mm-hmm. Completely unpredictable too.
Terrible. It's just like that.
So shortly after the tornado, did you notice any changes in the community or relationships within the community to help recovery and rebuilding?
We ourselves did not really interact with people that had greater losses because we didn't know them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I have to be honest, we were in a state of shock.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
That's understandable, for sure.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you go kind of numb. But we were thankful that our house only suffered minor damage.
Mm-hmm.
2 blocks away, houses were literally wiped out. One of them, right near North Haven Trail down here, is still standing there with the roof collapsed and everything. I guess there was some insurance issues or whatever it is that prevented it from being either torn down or replaced and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's incredible and so scary.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is scary. I mean, the JCC suffered. The Federation building right next door, they were hit hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were shut down for a long time.
Was there support from the JCC or members of the JCC that were pretty active in rebuilding?
The recovery?
Mm-hmm.
Not, I don't know if
Okay.
they were, but an awful lot of people that were members of the JCC were impacted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's obvious. I know of one.
Mm-hmm. Do you know if there were any like fundraising efforts?
I'm not
Or-
aware. I'm
okay.
not aware.
No
I'm
problem.
not aware of any. the government did not declare this area, as a disaster site or whatever it was. So it was not sort of under the federal FEMA jurisdiction. No, it was basically, if your insurance didn't cover it, you were out of luck. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did that change your attitudes in any way of how you would prepare for disasters in the future, or?
Oh, absolutely. Make sure that the insurance is there. That's the most important thing. Very often people cut the insurance out of their budget when they're tight. Wrong thing to do. Very wrong thing to do. Actually, before this disaster occurred, over the last, the previous 18 years or so, we've had several sirens going off with threatening tornadoes that came or did not come. And our neighbor directly across the street, they have an underground shelter. It's like a concrete bunker.
Wow.
Yeah, they just, just you see the dome above the ground.
Yeah.
And on a number of occasions when the siren went off and the cell phone said, watch out, going to the closet, whatever it was, we essentially grabbed the dog and run over and with the neighbors, go into the shelter until the all clear would sound. It's traumatic, but that's the way we dealt with it. If it happens again, that's where we're going.
Good. That's great to have that option. I don't think storm shelters are that common in Dallas. Do you know many others that have them?
It is a remnant of when they built this house in 1941, when this whole area, the entire area were farms. And they literally built it into the ground. And since then the area was built, but that shelter remained.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's stocked with, by the way, it's stocked with food and water.
Okay.
In case you're stuck in there for a while. And a radio and that kind of stuff.
Do you know how long residents lost power for, if at all, in buildings that were still habitable?
Well, I know that power was lost. We did not return for another 10 days or so. By the time we returned, the power was restored.
Good.
So we were not there, but as you may know, February a year ago, when the cold weather hit us, okay, we lost power for 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's not a natural disaster. It's a weather consequence, if you will. And we lost power. We were fortunate to have a fireplace. But I remember on the 4th day, the temperature inside the house plunged to 50 degrees. It was cold, and we slept in sleeping bags in front of the fireplace.
Wow.
And every 2 hours run around, flush the toilets, open the faucets, make sure that nothing freezes. And I know that many people did have pipe bursts and other plumbing issues as a result of that cold.
Yeah.
And so we decided actually to take some action. We had a backup generator installed in the house, which was actually activated yesterday, finally.
Good.
So if we lose power, it kicks on automatically and provides power to the house. So hopefully we won't have to use it, but if we do, we'll get the benefit.
Did you feel adequately prepared for the freeze and the winter weather? Do you feel like you were
No,
warned?
absolutely not. We were not prepared at all. It's not that, we've had freezes before. The temperature would plunge to like 10 degrees, which is very cold,
Mm-hmm.
okay? But what we did not prepare for is the extended power loss.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we were not prepared. We didn't have to, for example, deal with frozen food getting stored. You just put it outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we did.
Did you have enough drinking water or
Yeah.
the ability to
Yeah,
prepare food?
the water supply was maintained.
Good.
There was not an issue at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cold.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to make food because the oven is gas.
Great.
So we had a gas supply, so we were able to make spaghetti or whatever. So that was not an issue, but just being cold,
Mm-hmm.
walking in the house with this polar bear kind of jacket, which
Yeah.
fortunately we had some that we were given on a trip to Antarctica, which is super cold.
Wow.
Yeah, we just returned from Antarctica about 4 or 5 months before that. So we had these, those very heavy kind of jacket, with the 15 million pockets and zippers and all kinds of things. So we were wearing those because it was cold.
My goodness. A trip to Antarctica sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
How long were you there
penguins
for?
and all that stuff. 3 weeks.
Wow. How cool.
Yeah, that is cool. We advise everyone should do that in their lifetime before it's gone, before it melts.
Honestly.
Talking about environmental disasters, that's one of them that's happening right in living color right in front of us, by the way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we had a taste of what it looks like now.
Good.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
And we think that one of the things that a consequence of what people refer to as global warming, climate change, environmental changes, and so on, which I'm a very strong believer in that we can really damage Earth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a radical environmentalist. I'm a realist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have science background in me. And I believe that we can really cause a lot of problems. And some of them will probably be an increase in tornadoes. And I think that already has been demonstrated that we're going to have more of them. More people will get hurt. What you can do about it, other than to move to Norway, I don't know. I don't know. But that's the reality of life.
Do you think your experiences with natural disasters have made you more aware of environmental change, or was it something that you were always pretty observant of?
That one incident did not say much about my beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Many people actually don't believe it. They claim that it's a political ploy. Unfortunately, they're not informed. They are not realistic. And they just do not have a science background to understand that, hey, it's happening. It really, really is.
Mm-hmm.
I know people say, well, we had, the ice age in the past. We didn't cause it. There were periods in history where the temperatures were very high and the Sahara Desert used to bloom, with trees and grass and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it happens naturally. Okay, that's fine. If you want to wait 73,000 years, that's fine. But why make it happen in our lifetime?
Mm-hmm.
Because it will happen naturally,
Mm-hmm.
Over glacial periods, okay? But why make it happen in our lifetime?
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
Did you find that was a frequent topic of conversation either after the tornado or the freeze, whether on the news or among community members or neighbors?
Yeah, lately it's a major topic. Not so much because there are more hurricanes or more tornadoes or rise of sea levels, but more in terms of measured temperature changes. The average temperature of the Earth is climbing faster than it has in the last 400 years. It's like going like that. Glaciers are melting faster. The North Pole is losing ice. Polar bears are looking for new places to settle. It's going to hit us. And if you have a problem in New York City, don't go hide in the subway because it's going to be flooded. Which, by the way, happened already when Hurricane Sandy
Mm-hmm.
came by. It already happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah.
We've had a very hot summer in Dallas so far.
Yeah, and you know what yes, we have, and we're going to have many, many more over 100 temperatures in the forecast. And I've heard some people say, well, the year 1980, we had over 100 days of 100 degree and above. I wasn't here at the time, but it's true. My brother was.
Mm-hmm.
My wife was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was awful. So some climate change deniers saying, well, it happened before. Why are you making a big deal out of it? It's human nature, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The topic is considerably more frequent. I read about it in the papers. I read more about it in the scientific journals that I read. And anyone who is in denial is going to have something coming.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to find out.
Are there any papers or journals that you prefer or would recommend to anyone who's interested in the topic?
Well, I like to read a journal called Scientific American, which is published once a month. Okay, I've subscribed to it since I was practically a teenager. Every Tuesday, the New York Times has a science section, and sometimes they deal with it, sometimes they do not. They deal with, geckos and horses or some other things. But I've read more and more about it in both online and in the Scientific American. There are those, by the way, that say that Scientific American is sort of tilted, more towards their opinion. But there's another organization called Concerned Scientists. I don't know if you've heard of that. Okay. It's an organization of scientists, essentially. They're American Concerned Scientists. And they similarly make the same claim. Hey, it's real. Really real. Yeah, I am worried myself. I really am. Maybe not for myself, because I'm going to be 6 feet under, but my grandchildren will still be 6 feet above.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll have to look at the grass from the top, not from the bottom. So I'm worried about what the grandchildren will have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Are there any resources that you would recommend that you relied on after the tornado to learn how to better prepare, or any advice for a future disaster?
Yeah, one of the things that we've done is we keep 2 or 3 cases of water, bottled water, by the way, in the closet, just in case. We do that. We stock more non-perishable food in the house. I do that. We had the house insulated better for that reason, and that cannot do any more than that, other than move.
Right.
Where are you going to move?
Everywhere has some kind of problem.
Yeah, I
Some
mean,
type
if you
of
want a very large
risk.
swimming pool in about 100 years, go move to Florida. It'll be a very big swimming pool. Yeah.
As a member of the board of the HOA, were there any difficult decisions that you had to make or conversations that you were part of that made you reconsider some of the guidelines for the HOA or
One of the
protections?
things that we advised, and a bulletin was put out to the 200 or so members who own those units, is to purchase loss assessment packages in their insurance that spend another $4 a year and up it from $1,000 to $10,000 coverage, because even though the likelihood of having to use it is very small, but when it hits, it's very large. We had to eat it. So we actually advise people to do that. And the interesting thing is that insurance brokers, they don't even mention it. They don't even advise, hey, why don't you spend another $2 or $5 and increase it.
Did you maintain the relationship or with your existing insurance provider, or did you shop around for different providers?
No,
at all?
we I happen to be a very loyal person with my insurance company, my telephone company, my internet company, my this company, my that company. We don't hop around. So even though it may be more expensive and the television says that, wow, you can save $567 by switching to Geico or something like that, I don't pay any attention to that. We have a very, very long relationship with all of the providers. You know, I'm practically on a first name basis with AT&T.
So you think that they provide pretty good customer service in the
Yeah.
rebuilding period, and were able to understand your needs and
My
communicate
experience,
effectively?
yes. Our insurance company, I can tell you which one it is, but, you know, it's State Farm. And
Good.
that particular broker,
Glad.
we've been their customer, I've been their customer for way over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, since 1989, when I moved to Texas. Haven't changed. Yeah.
Good. And then during the rebuilding, did you find it was difficult or easy to find contractors that were able to help with the repairs pretty quickly and efficiently?
We did not have an issue finding someone who is an expert in for our home, for our home that is. Our neighbor recommended them because they were doing some work for them, and they turned out to be wonderful.
Good.
They handled everything, they advised us, and they went way above board to make sure that all of our damages were covered.
Good.
Absolutely.
And you were able to be home during the repairs?
Oh yeah, it's the roof.
Good.
There was no internal damage.
Good.
So it did not affect internally.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So that's what it was.
How's your dog been after the storm? Were there any signs of anxiety or anything?
Well, we weren't here when it occurred, but he happens to be a wonderful Shar-Pei, 85 pounds, very nonchalant. You can have an explosion right outside and he'll just and go back to sleep.
You feel safe at home, huh?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So, no, he did well.
Good.
He did well. I mean, whenever the mailman or woman
Mhm.
comes and slips the stuff through the door slot, he just goes wild and he grabs it and flings it all over the place, you know. Yeah, it's a routine. It's a
Mhm.
routine.
Well, is there anything else about your experience that you would like to share, whether for the tornado or the freeze or climate change in general?
I think the freeze may happen again. The power loss could definitely happen again. Okay? If people have the wherewithal financially and they live in a private home, buy a generator. Buy a generator. You'll have peace of mind. It removes a lot. And by the way, many of our neighbors are doing that.
Good.
Many of them.
Mm-hmm.
My neighbor literally in back of my house, actually he went way overboard. He installed solar panels and generators and batteries. You know, I mean, he's ready for Armageddon.
It's a good neighbor to have, to be that prepared.
He really is. He showed it to me. You know, he can control it on his iPhone, you know, on his smartphone.
Was there kind of a frantic rush in your eyes after the freeze for people to be prepared for the next storm, or did people think it was kind of a
I can
one-time
tell
thing?
you one thing. Okay. After the freeze, there was a rash of people buying backup generators
Mm.
with automatic switching unit, you know, so it's all automatic.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to purchase one now, you're going to have to wait at least a year before they can give you one.
Wow.
It's a waiting list forever. We managed to find someone who was recommended by a good friend of ours, and he was able to get it in 4 months. And we just literally turned it on yesterday for the first time.
Wow.
Legally, because it needed inspection and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So we know that if we lose power,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have power.
Good.
And it runs
Much
off
better
gas.
Okay.
In other words, the gas lines, the one that you get in your oven and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's not disrupted, which, you know, environmental disaster will really not do much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all underground kind of stuff. We'll be okay. We
Mhm.
will be okay.
Good.
I'm concerned about this summer. I think today it's supposed to be cool because it's going to rain, but
Mhm.
yesterday it hit 105.
Mm-hmm.
It was hot,
Very hot.
and there were rumors going on that ERCOT, you know, the company that looks for the reliability, that they even started talking about blackouts and brownouts.
Mm-hmm.
I read about it in the blogs that are circulating all around.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Do you usually follow ERCOT's recommendation to change your
We did.
air conditioning, or?
Yes, and in fact, a couple of days ago, there was an announcement, please cut back on power, and we did.
Mm-hmm.
We turned off our pool pump,
Okay.
you know, which runs out of 220, it's about 10, 12 amps.
Okay.
That contributes. We made sure that we're not using our oven is electric, the stovetop is gas, so that's okay that we don't use that. Turn the lights off if you're not going to be in that room. Yeah, we responded to that, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do you know if you have the option to use a green energy provider, or does that
Like
come
solar
up in your
panels
decision
and everything
making?
like that.
Mhm. Or even some of the energy providers will use like wind or solar energy.
We've had quotes for solar energy.
Mm-hmm.
2 different quotes people came in. The initial cost was going to be $94,000 or $96,000. But that's okay. You can pay it off in 20 years. So I looked at and I said, where am I going to be in 20 years? I'm going to be looking at the grass, looking up, not looking down. So it was not at least economic for us to switch to solar. And the entire roof, they were going to put like 90-something panels, literally
Wow.
covering the whole roof. So from a financial point of view, it was not viable. It just didn't make any sense. We have those smart thermostats that not only do I control it, but it's actually controlled by the manufacturer. You heard of those Nest thermostats? Yeah, we have 3 of them.
Okay.
And in fact, yesterday I saw a thing written on it. We adjusted your thermostat for economy for this. They actually change it based on the temperature outside and saving energy and stuff like that. And of course, my wife goes, she looks at it and she goes.
You have to prioritize comfort sometimes, right? Especially when it's this hot.
I know. But it's okay. I think I am seeing substantial reduction in my electric costs, by the way.
Good.
Since they started doing the economy adjustment based on the outside temperature. It's like Microsoft, they can control your computer. They actually constantly make improvements in how those thermostats work. Yeah, I like that.
Do your children share the same values in your dedication to the environment? Or,
Absolutely not. No. My wife and I raised our grandchildren. We have 2 of them. So we actually raised them. They do not live with us anymore because they are like grown-ups, But I think the only thing that makes them concerned about, being economic is the fact that they have to pay their electric bills. So, yeah. Not from an environmental perspective, but from a financial perspective.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's human nature. There's people tendencies to say, well, what my impact on the environment among 9 billion other people that on Earth is like a drop in the ocean. It's the mentality. How can I possibly affect stuff? So it's human nature. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to be mindful of your time and really appreciate all of the insight you've provided. Is there anything else that you want to share?
No, I'm glad that I have an opportunity to at least give my perspective of things when it comes to these natural disasters, environmental impacts, and how it affects humanity. I'm not an activist. I do my own little thing, and I try to talk to other people about it. And if they don't want to listen, that's fine. At least I feel comfortable that I'm doing my job, my share. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Joram. It was so wonderful talking to you today.
Okay.